The Arizona sun had long since set, but the heat lingered in the concrete walls like a curse. Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kincaid sat motionless in the center of the iron cage, her wrists zip-tied behind her back, her steel-gray eyes tracking every movement in the shadows beyond the bars. 3 guards circled her cell like vultures. The tallest one, a man with a spiderweb tattoo crawling up his neck, kicked the bars with his boot. The metallic clang echoed through the empty corridor. "Hey, princesa," he said, his English thick with a Mexican accent. "You've been quiet all day. What's wrong, scared?" The second guard laughed, a wet, phlegmy sound. He was shorter, rounder, with gaps in his teeth. "Maybe she doesn't speak Spanish. Maybe she's too stupid to understand what's happening to her." The third guard said nothing. He just stood there, arms crossed, an AK-47 slung across his chest. His eyes were darker than the others, more calculating. He was the one Alexis had been watching most carefully. Spiderweb kicked the bars again. "You know what happens to pretty American girls here. You think someone's coming to save you." The fat one pressed his face against the bars. His breath smelled like cheap tequila and cigarettes. "What can you do to us?" He grinned, showing those ruined teeth. "You're just a little girl, alone. Nobody knows you're here." Alexis didn't move, didn't blink. She let her eyes drift slowly from Spiderweb to the fat one, then to the silent guard with the rifle. She noted distances, the way Spiderweb's holster sat loose on his hip, the way the fat one's machete hung from a belt loop instead of a proper sheath, the way the third guard stood just outside the camera's blind spot. 3 men, 1 AK-47, 2 pistols, 2 machetes. The camera in the corner had a dead zone spanning roughly 4 feet along the eastern wall. "What's she looking at?" Spiderweb muttered. "Nothing," the fat one said. "She's broken already." But the third guard's eyes narrowed. He'd seen something the others hadn't. Something in the way this woman held herself, despite the zip ties, despite the dirt on her face, despite the blood crusted at her temple. She sat like a coiled spring, like something waiting. "Come on," he said quietly. "Boss wants us on the perimeter." Spiderweb spat through the bars. It landed inches from Alexis's boot. "Sleep tight, princesa. Tomorrow Victor wants to meet you. You'll wish you were still in this cage." Their footsteps faded down the corridor. A door slammed. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Only then did Alexis allow herself to move. She rolled her shoulders, working out the stiffness, feeling the weapons she'd carefully concealed during the intake search. The glass shard taped against her spine, the lighter hidden in the hem of her pants, the 2 feet of steel wire she'd pulled from the bed frame now coiled in her boot. Not much. But a seal didn't need much. She closed her eyes and let the memories come. Wyoming, 1996. Summer. She was 10 years old, standing in a field of tall grass with a .22 rifle pressed against her shoulder. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting everything gold and red. "Breathe," her father said. He stood behind her, one hand on her shoulder. "Don't fight the rifle. Let it become part of you." Master Chief William Kincaid was a big man, 6'3", 240 pounds of muscle and bone forged in combat. He had the weathered face of someone who'd seen things no man should see, done things no man should have to do. But when he looked at his daughter, his eyes went soft. "Target's at 200 yards, he said. "Wind's coming from the west at about 5 miles per hour. How do you adjust?" "Hold left," Alexis said. Her voice was high and thin, still a child's voice, about 2 inches. "Good. Now show me." She exhaled slowly the way he'd taught her, found the space between heartbeats, squeezed the trigger. The can exploded off the fence post. William smiled. It was rare, that smile. Precious. "Perfect shot, Raven." Raven, that's what he called her. Not Alex, not Lexi. Raven. "Why do you call me that?" she asked as they walked back toward the ranch house. "Because ravens are smart," he said. "They watch, they learn, they remember everything, and when the moment comes, they're deadly." She looked up at him. "Like you." He stopped walking. For a long moment he just stared at the horizon, like what I hope you'll never have to be. But she heard something in his voice, something that sounded like a warning, like a prophecy. "Dad," she said, "are you going away again?" He crouched down so they were eye level. His big hands rested on her shoulders. "I have to go back to work soon, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Everything I teach you, the shooting, the survival skills, the fighting, you remember it all. Every single thing, and if something ever happens to me, you be stronger than I was, you be smarter, you be better." She didn't understand. Not then. "Nothing's going to happen to you. You're the strongest person in the world." He smiled again, but this time it was sad. "Nobody's invincible, Raven. Remember that." 2 years later, he was dead. Present day, Mexico. Alexis opened her eyes. The memory faded, but the pain never did. 28 years. 28 years of carrying that weight, of wondering what he'd meant, of becoming exactly what he'd trained her to be. She shifted her position in the cage, testing the zip ties. Tight. Professional. Whoever had secured her knew what they were doing. But they'd made one mistake. They'd left her alive. Footsteps echoed in the corridor again. Different this time. Heavier. More purposeful. The door opened. A woman stumbled through, pushed by another guard. She was young, mid-20s, blonde, wearing the torn remnants of what had once been offensive clothing. Her face was bruised, her eyes red from crying. The guard shoved her into the cage next to Alexis's and locked it without a word. The woman collapsed against the bars, sobbing. Alexis waited until the guard left. Then she spoke, her voice low and calm. "What's your name?" The woman's head jerked up. She stared at Alexis through the darkness. "Meredith. Meredith Hawthorne." The name clicked. Congresswoman Hawthorne's daughter. Missing for 6 days. This was the target. The reason Alexis was here. "How many guards during the day?" Alexis asked. Meredith blinked. "What? How many guards do you see during the day? What's the rotation?" I don't know. 6, 8, they all look the same to me." "Do they bring food at regular times? Twice a day, morning and evening?" "What about the cameras? Do they watch them constantly?" Meredith crawled closer to the bars separating their cages. Her eyes were wide pupils dilated with fear and something else. Hope. "Who are you?" "Someone who's going to get you out of here." Are you with the FBI?" "Did my mother send you?" Alexis said nothing. She turned her attention to the corridor, listening. Footsteps in the distance, the murmur of voices, the hum of generators. "There are others," Meredith whispered. "In the building next door. At least 10 other women. Some have been here for months." Alexis's jaw tightened. The briefing had said 1 hostage, 1 target, extract and evac. But intelligence was always incomplete, always sanitized. The reality on the ground was always uglier. "How many total?" she asked. 12, maybe more. I heard them crying at night." 12 hostages, 47 guards, 1 compound in the middle of nowhere, no backup, no support. The GPS tracker destroyed during intake. Any rational operator would wait, would conserve energy, would look for the right moment when the odds were better. But Alexis had learned a long time ago that the right moment never comes. You make the moment. "Listen to me carefully," she said. "In the next 24 hours, things are going to get very loud and very violent. When I tell you to run, you run. You don't look back. You don't wait for me. You get to those other women and you lead them out. Understand? I can't. I'm not. Yes, you can. Your mother is waiting for you. So are 11 other families. You're going to make it home." Meredith wiped her eyes. "What about you? I have unfinished business here." Before Meredith could ask what that meant, another door opened. This time the footsteps were accompanied by voices. One of them was deep, rough, speaking in accented English. "The American, the one who claims to be journalist, bring her." Spiderweb appeared at Alexis's cage. He unlocked it with a grin. "Time to meet the boss, Princessa. Hope you're ready." 2 guards grabbed her arms and hauled her to her feet. The zip ties cut into her wrists, but she gave no indication of pain. She catalogued everything as they dragged her through the corridor, the position of every door, every window, every potential weapon. The fire extinguisher mounted on the wall, the electrical panel with exposed wiring, the service ladder leading to the roof access. They pulled her into a larger room. It was sparse concrete floor, metal table, single chair bolted to the ground. Industrial lights hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. And standing in the corner, watching her with pale blue eyes, was the man she'd come to kill. Victor Dalka. He was 54 but looked older. His face was a roadmap of violence. Scars from shrapnel burns from close-quarter combat, the deep lines of someone who'd spent decades looking over his shoulder. His hair was gray, cut military short. He wore simple clothes, black tactical pants, gray shirt, but he carried himself with the posture of a soldier. "So," he said, his Romanian accent thick but his English perfect. "The journalist." They forced Alexis into the chair. Spiderweb stood behind her while the fat guard positioned himself by the door. Victor approached, slowly circling her like a predator evaluating prey. "You know what I find interesting?" he said. "Real journalists, when they're captured, they talk, they beg, they try to negotiate, they offer money connections, anything to save themselves." He stopped in front of her. "But you've been silent since we brought you in. Why is that?" Alexis met his eyes, said nothing. Victor smiled. "You're wondering if I know. The answer is yes. I know exactly what you are." He nodded to Spiderweb, who yanked her head back by her hair. Victor leaned in close. His breath smelled like coffee and something medicinal. "The way you move," he said. "The way you assessed every guard, every exit, every weapon. The way you sit even now, balanced, ready, despite the restraints. These are not the habits of a journalist." He released her and stepped back. "So let's stop the games. Who sent you, DEA, FBI?" His smile widened. "Or perhaps Navy SEAL." Alexis kept her face neutral, but something flickered behind her eyes. Victor caught it. "Ah," he said. "There it is, the truth." He pulled up a chair and sat down, suddenly casual, as if they were old friends catching up. "I've killed many special operators over the years, Americans, Russians, British. You all have the same eyes, hard, empty, like you've seen the worst humanity has to offer and become part of it." "I'm a journalist," Alexis said. Her voice was steady. "From—" Victor held up a hand. "Please, don't insult either of our intelligence. We both know why you're here. The question is, are you alone or is there a team waiting?" When she didn't answer, he sighed. "Very well. I had hoped we could be civilized about this." He nodded to the guards. They grabbed her chair and tilted it backward. Spiderweb produced a cloth and a bucket of water. Waterboarding. Of course, as they positioned her as the first splash of water hit the cloth covering her face, as her lungs began to burn with the sensation of drowning. Alexis's mind went to another place, another time. Coronado, California, Bud's training, week 23. The SEER instructor stood over her, his face blurred by the water pouring over the hood they'd forced onto her head. "You think you're tough," he screamed. "You think because you made it through Hell Week you're special. Wait until the enemy gets hold of you. Wait until they really start working on you." The water kept coming. Her lungs screamed for air. Every instinct demanded she fight, struggle, give up. But through the roar of panic she heard another voice. Her father's voice. "Pain is temporary, Raven. The mission is forever." She'd survived that day. She'd survived Hell Week. She'd survived every test they'd thrown at her, becoming one of the first women to complete Bud's training and earn the Trident. She'd survived because William Kincaid had trained her for this exact moment. Present. Mexico. They pulled the cloth away. Alexis gasped, coughed, sucked in air. Her vision swam, but she forced her eyes to focus on Victor. He was watching her carefully. "Impressive. Most people break after the first round. You're well trained." He leaned forward. "So let me ask you something different, something personal. Do you have family?" Alexis said nothing. "A father, perhaps? Someone in the military, someone who taught you these skills? Her silence was answer enough. Victor's expression changed. His eyes narrowed. He studied her face, really looked at her, and something clicked. Recognition sparked in those pale blue eyes. "Those eyes," he murmured. "I've seen those eyes before." He stood abruptly, circled her again. "What's your name, your real name?" "Go to hell!" He laughed, a short, sharp bark. "Your name! Tell me or we continue, and trust me, I can make this last days." Alexis calculated. The truth would come out eventually, might as well control when and how. "Kincaid," she said. "Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kincaid." Victor stopped mid-step. He went very still. "Kincaid," he repeated. "William Kincaid, Master Chief, SEAL Team 2. She felt her heart rate spike, forced it back down. "You knew him." "Knew him?" Victor moved back to his chair, sat down slowly. "I killed him." The room seemed to contract. The air grew thin. "Nairobi, 1998. Victor continued, his voice almost conversational now. "Your father was running an operation tracking Al-Qaeda cells after the embassy bombings. He was very good, very thorough. Too thorough." He pulled out a cigarette, lit it. "He discovered something he shouldn't have. Weapons sales, black market deals running through Kenya, Uganda into the Yugoslav wars, both sides buying, American serial numbers on Serbian guns. Very embarrassing for certain people in your government." Alexis's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists behind her back, using the pain to stay focused. "Your father was going to report it, going to testify, so certain people, people with money, people with power, they hired me." Victor exhaled smoke. $2 million to make a problem disappear. I planted explosives in the safe house. Remote detonation. They called it collateral damage. Al-Qaeda retaliation. Very clean. "You're lying," Alexis whispered. "I checked the classified files, the ones that just got declassified last month. I think you'll find I'm telling the truth." He smiled. "That's why you're here, isn't it? Not for the congresswoman's daughter. That's just the excuse. You came for me." She said nothing. Her entire world had narrowed to this man, this monster, this ghost who'd haunted her nightmares for 28 years. "Your father was a good soldier," Victor said. "Honorable, brave, all the American virtues, but in this business, honor gets you killed. He learned that lesson. Now you will too." He stood. "Put her back in the cage. No food, no water. Tomorrow we'll continue our conversation, and then we'll see what Lieutenant Commander Kincaid is really made of." The guards grabbed her, dragged her back through the corridors. She didn't resist, didn't fight. Just memorized every step, every turn, every detail. They threw her back into the cage. The door clanged shut. Meredith whispered from the next cell. "Are you okay?" Alexis sat in the center of her cage exactly as before, but something had changed. The last piece of the puzzle had clicked into place. The truth her father had died protecting. The conspiracy that reached all the way to Langley. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I'm okay." And for the first time since the guards had taunted her, since they'd asked what she could possibly do to them. Alexis smiled. It was not a kind smile. She closed her eyes and let her training take over. Every detail from the interrogation crystallized in her mind. The compound layout, the armory location, the blind spots she'd cataloged, everything she needed. They thought she was broken, defeated, just another captured American waiting for rescue or death. They had no idea what was about to happen, because William Kincaid had spent 12 years training his daughter, teaching her, preparing her for a world that would try to break her. And Master Chief William Kincaid had never trained anyone to fail. In the darkness of the cage, Alexis went to work. She shifted her weight, pressing her spine against the bars until she felt the glass shard. Carefully, slowly, she worked it free from the tape. It took 20 minutes of patient, silent effort. When it came loose, she gripped it between her fingers and began sawing at the zip tie. The plastic was thick, but the glass was sharp. Back and forth, back and forth. From the next cage, Meredith watched in silence. Somewhere in the compound, a radio crackled. Guards laughed. A door slammed. And in her cage, Alexis Kincaid prepared for war. The zip tie parted with a soft snap. She flexed her hands, working blood back into her fingers. Then she looked at the lock on her cage, a simple padlock, old, poorly maintained. She reached into her boot and pulled out the steel wire she'd salvaged from the bed frame. Picking locks was basic tradecraft, something her father had taught her on a rainy afternoon when she was 11. "You never know when you'll need to open a door that's supposed to stay closed," he'd said. The lock clicked open in 45 seconds. Alexis didn't move, not yet. She sat there, the lock undone but still hooked, waiting, listening. The guards wouldn't make their rounds for another hour and a half. That gave her time. She needed to know the full layout, needed to locate all 12 hostages, needed to find the armory, the communications room, the vehicle depot, and she needed to find Victor Dalka, because this wasn't just about rescue anymore. This was about justice, truth, finishing what her father had started 28 years ago. "What are you doing?" Meredith whispered. Alexis looked at her through the darkness. "Keeping a promise." She carefully removed the lock, opened the cage door just wide enough to slip through. The hinges were old, rusty, but she moved slowly enough that they barely creaked. The corridor stretched ahead, lit by those buzzing fluorescent lights. She moved along the wall, staying in the camera's blind spots, just another shadow among shadows. At the end of the corridor was a door. She pressed her ear against it, listening. Nothing. She tried the handle. Unlocked. Beyond it was another corridor, wider, this one with multiple doors on each side. She moved like smoke, checking each door. Storage. Empty. Storage. Empty. The fourth door was different. She heard voices behind it, female voices crying. She tried the handle, also unlocked. These men were arrogant, confident. They didn't expect resistance. That would be their final mistake. The room beyond held 8 women in cages similar to her own. They looked up as she entered, hope and fear warring on their faces. "Who are you?" one of them whispered. She was older than the others, 30s, with the intelligent eyes of someone who'd once had a different life. Are you with them?" "No," Alexis said. "I'm getting you out, but not yet. Soon. When I say so, be ready." She backed out of the room before anyone could ask more questions. 4 more hostages in other rooms. The numbers matched what Meredith had said. 12 total. 12 women who'd been forgotten by the world. 12 families who didn't know if their daughters, sisters, wives were alive or dead. Alexis moved deeper into the compound. She found the kitchen empty at this hour. The common area where guards played cards and watched television. The barracks where they slept. And finally, the armory. The door was locked. Heavy steel, good quality. But the window next to it was just bulletproof glass set in a cheap frame. She made a mental note. She checked her internal clock. 73 minutes since the guards had left. She needed to be back in her cage before the next rotation. She retraced her steps, silent as death, back to the cell block, back to her cage. She closed the door, replaced the lock so it looked secure, and returned to her sitting position in the center of the cell. When the guards made their rounds 20 minutes later, she was exactly where they'd left her. They didn't even look at her closely, just checked the lock and moved on, fools. The rest of the night passed in sense. Alexis sat in meditation, going over everything she'd seen, building a 3-dimensional map in her mind. Every room, every corridor, every guard post. When dawn came, she was ready. The morning guard brought food: cold beans, stale tortillas, water that tasted like rust. Alexis ate mechanically, fueling her body for what was coming. Meredith couldn't eat. "What's going to happen?" she asked. "Change," Alexis said. "Soon." At 1400 hours, the guards came for her again. This time there were 4 of them, and they weren't taking chances. They zip-tied her hands in front instead of behind, and 2 of them kept their hands on their weapons the entire walk. They brought her to a different room this time. Larger, with better lighting and worse implications. Maxim Volkov was waiting there. She recognized him immediately, the Ukrainian, the quiet one, the guard who'd watched her differently than the others. He stood alone, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. When the other guards left, he spoke in perfect English. "You opened your cage last night. You scouted the compound. You found the other hostages." Alexis said nothing. I could have reported you, Maxim continued. Should have reported you. Victor would have rewarded me well, maybe even made me lieutenant. Why didn't you? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a photograph. He held it up so she could see. It showed a young girl, maybe 6 years old, blonde braids, smiling at the camera. My daughter, he said. Oksana. She lives in Kiev with my ex-wife. I send money every month. Money I earn working for animals like Victor. He put the photo away. I was Spetsnaz, 10th Brigade. I fought in Chechnya. I did terrible things for my country, things I can never take back. When the Soviet Union fell, I had nothing, no pension, no honor. So I became this. He gestured around the room. But every time I look at that photo, I wonder what Oksana will think when she learns what her father became. Then help me, Alexis said. Help me get those women out. If I help you, Victor will kill me. If you don't, you'll have to live with yourself. Maxim smiled sadly. You sound like someone I once knew. A commander. He used to say conscience was the price of being human. Smart man. Dead man. He refused an order to execute civilians. They shot him in front of the whole unit as an example. Maxim moved closer. There's a mole in your command. Someone sent word you were coming. That's why Victor was ready. That's why he knew to look for American operators. Who? I don't know. But be careful who you trust when you call for extraction. Before Alexis could respond, the door opened. Victor entered, flanked by 6 guards. Lieutenant Commander, he said. I hope you're well rested because today we're going to have a very different kind of conversation. He pulled out a combat knife, 8 inches of blackened steel. Your father had 12 hours of interrogation before he broke, Victor said, testing the edge with his thumb. Let's see if his daughter has inherited his stubbornness. Alexis looked at Maxim. He gave the smallest nod. When you move, I won't stop you. Before we begin, Victor said, I should tell you something. That Congresswoman's daughter you came to rescue, she's being moved tonight. Sold. By tomorrow morning, she'll be on a boat to Syria. You'll never find her. He smiled. So whatever you're planning, whatever rescue fantasy is running through your head, you're too late. You failed. Just like your father failed. Alexis met his eyes, and this time she smiled back. My father didn't fail, she said quietly. He taught me everything I needed to know, including when to break the rules. Victor's smile faded. What are you? She moved. The zip tie on her wrists had been partially cut during the night, just enough to weaken it. One sharp jerk and it snapped. Spiderweb reached for his gun. Alexis was faster. She grabbed the chair she'd been sitting on and swung it like a weapon. The metal leg caught him across the temple. He dropped. The fat guard pulled his machete. She kicked him in the knee, heard it pop, brought her elbow down on the back of his neck as he fell. 2 down, 4 to go, plus Victor. The room exploded into violence, and somewhere in the darkness, somewhere in the space between heartbeats, Master Chief William Kincaid whispered to his daughter, Now, Raven, show them what I taught you. The third guard managed to get his pistol halfway out of its holster before Alexis's boot connected with his wrist. Bone cracked. The gun clattered across the concrete floor. She didn't wait, didn't pause. Movement was survival. Hesitation was death. The fourth guard swung his rifle toward her. Too slow. She was already inside his reach, driving her shoulder into his solar plexus, using his own momentum against him. He stumbled backward into the fifth guard, both men tangled together. Victor moved then, not toward her, away, toward the door, running, smart. The sixth guard blocked her path. He was bigger than the others, professional, former military. She could see it in his stance, the way he held his weight centered and ready. They circled each other. The other guards were still down, groaning, trying to orient themselves. "You're good," the big guard said in accented English. "But not good enough." He lunged, fast for a big man. His fist came in low, aiming for her ribs. She deflected, countered with a strike to his throat. He blocked it, grabbed her wrist, twisted. Pain shot up her arm. He was stronger, much stronger. But strength wasn't everything. She let him pull her forward, used the momentum to drive her knee into his groin. His grip loosened. She spun, brought her elbow up into his jaw. His head snapped back, still standing. He charged again, trying to tackle her. She sidestepped, but he caught her ankle. She went down hard. The concrete knocked the air from her lungs. He was on top of her in an instant, hands going for her throat. Alexis drove her fingers into his eyes. He screamed, reared back. She bucked her hips, rolled, reversed their positions, grabbed his head with both hands and slammed it into the floor. Once, twice, 3 times. He stopped moving. The room fell silent except for the wet breathing of injured men. Alexis stood slowly. Her ribs ached. Her knuckles were split and bleeding. Her right shoulder felt like it had been hit with a hammer. But she was standing. The gun. Where was the gun? There, 5 feet away, next to the overturned chair. She dove for it. Her fingers closed around the grip. Glock 19. 15 rounds. She checked the chamber. 1 in the pipe. Spiderweb was trying to get up, blood streaming from his temple. She kicked him in the face. He stayed down this time. The fat guard with the ruined knee was crawling toward the door. She walked over, placed her boot on his back, pressed down. "Victor," she said. "Where did he go?" "Fuck you," the guard gasped. She increased the pressure. "Where? Building 3, his office. He'll kill you, he'll—" She knocked him unconscious with the pistol grip. No time for speeches. Maxim appeared in the doorway. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. 6 guards down, blood on the floor, and Alexis standing in the center of it all like an avenging angel. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "The hostages," Alexis said. "Get them to the vehicle depot. There are keys in the kitchen. I saw them on a hook by the back door. You can't take on the whole compound alone. Watch me." She moved past him into the corridor. Behind her, she heard him making a choice, the kind of choice that defines a man. His footsteps went the other direction, toward the holding cells. Good. Alexis moved through the compound like a shadow. The Glock was up, ready, scanning corners. Her training had taken over completely now. No thought. Pure instinct. A guard rounded the corner. She double-tapped him center mass before he could shout. His body hit the ground with a heavy thud. Voices ahead. Multiple guards responding to the noise. She counted 3 distinct voices, maybe 4. An empty room to her left, a storage closet. She ducked inside, left the door cracked open 6 inches. The guards ran past, weapons drawn, heading toward the interrogation room. She waited until they passed, then stepped out behind them. "Hey!" They turned. She fired. 3 shots, 3 targets, the Mozambique drill just like her father had taught her. 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, all 3 dropped. The 4th guard, there had been 4, came from around the corner. She caught the movement in her peripheral vision, turned, fired. He got a shot off first. The round buzzed past her ear like an angry hornet, so close she felt the heat. Her bullet caught him in the throat. He went down, clutching his neck, drowning in his own blood. She didn't watch him die. Couldn't afford the luxury. The compound was awake now. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Perfect. Chaos was an operator's best friend. She needed the armory, needed real weapon. The Glock was good, but she was down to 8 rounds. And she had 30-plus armed men between her and Victor. The armory was in Building 2. She was in Building 1. Between them, open courtyard, 0 cover, heavy foot traffic. Going through the front was suicide, so she went up. A service ladder led to the roof. She climbed fast, emerged into the desert night. The stars were brilliant overhead, indifferent to the violence below. She ran across the rooftop, boots barely making sound on the corrugated metal. Below she could hear shouting vehicles, starting, guards mobilizing. The gap between buildings was 12 feet, maybe 15. She backed up, got a running start, jumped. For a moment she was flying, suspended between buildings, between life and death. The ground was 20 feet below. If she missed, broken bones. Capture, torture, failure. Her hands caught the opposite ledge. Her body slammed into the wall. Pain exploded through her injured shoulder. She bit back a scream, pulled herself up with arms burning from exertion. Made it. She lay on the roof of Building 2 for 3 seconds, breathing hard, letting the pain wash through and past her. Then she moved again. A ventilation shaft led down into the building. She opened the grate, dropped inside. The shaft was narrow, claustrophobic. She had to move sideways inch by inch. Below, voices, guards in the corridor. She found another grate, looked through, empty storage room. The grate came off quietly. She dropped down, landed in a crouch. Glock up and ready, clear. The armory was 2 rooms over. She moved to the door, pressed her ear against it. Nothing. She tried the handle, locked as expected, but the window next to it, the one she'd noted during her reconnaissance, was just as vulnerable as she'd thought. She used the Glock grip to smash the glass. It spiderwebbed but didn't shatter completely. Bulletproof glass, but the frame was cheap plastic. She hit it again. Again. The frame cracked. One more hit and the whole window popped out of the wall. Alarms were already going. One more wouldn't matter. She climbed through into paradise. Rifles lined the walls. M4A1 carbines, HK-46s, AK-47s. A beautiful Remington M40A5 sniper rifle. Boxes of ammunition, fragmentation grenades, flashbangs, body armor stacked in the corner. She moved with purpose. Grabbed level 4 plates, slid them into a tactical vest. The weight was familiar, comforting. Loaded 6 magazines for the M4A1. Pocketed 4 fragmentation grenades, 2 flashbangs. Grabbed the HK-416, better range and accuracy than the M4. On the wall, a radio. She turned it to the guard frequency, listened. In Building 1, 6 men down, she's armed. Lock down all exits, no one leaves. Where's Victor? Building 3, he wants her alive. Alexis smiled. Victor wanted her alive. That was a mistake. She keyed the radio. Victor, this is Kincaid. I'm coming for you. Static. Then his voice tight with anger. You're one woman. You think you can fight your way through 40 men? I don't think. I know. Your father thought he was invincible too. Look what happened to him. My father taught me everything, Alexis said, including how to finish a mission. See you soon. She dropped the radio. Let them wonder. Let them fear. She moved back into the corridor. 2 guards were running toward the armory. She dropped them both with controlled bursts. 4 rounds. 2 targets. The HK-416 felt good in her hands. Balanced. Precise. She'd trained with this platform for years. More guards ahead. She pulled a fragmentation grenade, cooked it for 2 seconds, threw it down the corridor. Grenade! The explosion ripped through the hallway. Shrapnel pinged off the walls. Smoke filled the air. She moved through it like a ghost. 2 guards were still alive, stunned ears bleeding from the concussion. She put them down with headshots. The courtyard was ahead. Through the window she could see vehicles moving. Guards taking positions. They were setting up a kill box. She checked her ammunition. 23 rounds in the current magazine, 6 more magazines. That was 157 rounds total. Plus 4 grenades against 30-plus trained fighters in a defensive position. Her father's voice echoed in her memory, not from any specific moment, but from 1,000 training sessions distilled into one lesson. When the odds are against you, change the battlefield. She looked at the ceiling. Sprinkler pipes, fire suppression system. She shot the nearest sprinkler head. Water exploded from the broken pipe, flooding the corridor. She shot 3 more. Water poured down from the ceiling, creating chaos, obscuring vision. Then she pulled a flashbang, threw it down the hall toward the guards outside. Even through the water, the flash was brilliant. The bang was apocalyptic in the enclosed space. She ran through the water, through the smoke, straight toward the courtyard. A guard stumbled out, blind, disoriented. She shot him without breaking stride. Another came from the right. She pivoted, fired 3 rounds. He dropped. The courtyard was madness. Guards were shooting at shadows at each other, unable to see clearly through the water and smoke and darkness. She used their confusion, moved along the wall, staying low, firing in controlled bursts. Each shot was deliberate. Each bullet found its mark. The training took over completely. She wasn't thinking anymore. She was a weapon, a tool, purpose-given form. A guard got lucky, saw her through the chaos. His bullet caught her in the vest center mass. The impact drove the air from her lungs. The plate held, but it felt like getting kicked by a horse. She fired back. He went down. Keep moving. Movement is life. She made it to Building 3. The door was reinforced steel guards on the other side. No time for subtlety. She pulled her last fragmentation grenade, wedged it against the door handle, stepped back, turned away. The explosion blew the door off its hinges. She went through the smoke. 3 guards were down, dead or dying. 2 more were stumbling around, deafened, disoriented. She shot them both. The corridor stretched ahead. Victor's office was at the end. She knew because it was the only door with reinforced plating. The only door built to withstand an assault. She approached carefully. The door was closed, probably locked, probably barricaded. "Victor!" she called out. "It's over. Your men are dead. The hostages are gone. It's just you and me now." His voice came through the door, muffled but clear. "You're bleeding, Commander. I can hear it in your voice. How many hits did you take? 2, 3? How much longer can you keep this up?" "Long enough. I have supplies in here. Water, food. I can wait days. Can you?" She looked down. He was right. Blood was seeping through her pants leg. She'd taken a ricochet at some point, hadn't even felt it through the adrenaline. Her shoulder was on fire. Her ribs screamed with every breath. But she'd endured worse. Training had prepared her for this. "I don't need days," she said. She examined the door, heavy steel hinges on the inside, no way to shoot through it. Explosives would bring down half the building. "Think. Use the terrain." She looked up, dropped ceiling tiles. Commercial construction. The walls went up to the ceiling, but above that. She grabbed a chair, stood on it, pushed up a ceiling tile. As she suspected, false ceiling. The real ceiling was 10 feet higher. She climbed up into the space between. It was tight, cramped, filled with electrical wiring and ductwork, but she could move. She crawled above Victor's office, found what she was looking for, a ventilation grate looking down into the room. Below, she could see him. He sat behind a desk, a pistol in one hand, a radio in the other. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the room. The grate was screwed in place. She used her knife to loosen the screws, slowly, quietly. Victor spoke into the radio. "All units respond. What's your status? Static. Could anyone respond? More static." His calm cracked slightly. He set down the radio, picked up the pistol with both hands. The last screw came free. Alexis gripped the grate, held it in place. She thought of her father, thought of 12 years of training, thought of 28 years of carrying this weight. "For you, Dad?" she whispered. She dropped through the ceiling. The world slowed down. She felt the HK-416 already tracking toward Victor. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face. He started to raise his pistol. She fired first. 3 rounds, center mass. He staggered back, hit the wall, slid down. She landed hard, rolled, came up in a crouch, weapon trained on him. Victor looked down at the blood spreading across his chest. He laughed, a wet, bubbling sound. "Just like your father. Dramatic. Entrance." Alexis approached slowly, kicked his pistol away. "I'm not here to talk," she said. "Then why not shoot?" "Because I need you alive long enough to transmit something." She pulled out a small device from her vest, a body camera she'd grabbed from the armory. She'd been recording everything since Building 2. "This footage," she said, "shows everything. The hostages, the compound, and it shows you confessing to murdering my father. All of it goes to every news outlet, every government agency, every whistleblower site I can think of." Victor's eyes widened slightly. "You can't." "I already did. Uploaded on a delay. Unless I cancel the transmission in the next 30 minutes, the world sees everything. The CIA will bury this, maybe. But 12 families will know what happened to their daughters. Congress will have questions, and my father's name will be cleared." Victor coughed. Blood flecked his lips. "You win, Commander." "No," Alexis said quietly. "My father won. I just finished his mission." Victor's eyes started to glaze. His breathing became shallow. "One question," Alexis said. "The mole in my command. Who is it?" Victor smiled, blood on his teeth. "You'll never know if I tell the truth. Or lie. Try me. He leaned forward slightly, whispered a name. Blackwell. Then his eyes went empty. Alexis stood there for a long moment staring at the man who'd killed her father. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not relief, just tired. A noise behind her. She spun weapon up. Maxim stood in the doorway, hands raised. Easy. It's me. She lowered the rifle. The hostages. Safe. Meredith is leading them. I gave them directions to the border, 20 miles. They should make it. Why are you still here? He shrugged. I helped you. Victor's dead. When the cartel finds out, they'll kill me anyway. Figured I might as well see this through. What do you want? My daughter, to see her again, to tell her I'm sorry. Alexis studied him, made a decision. There's a town 15 miles south, San Miguel. There's a priest there, Father Ramirez. Tell him Raven sent you. He'll help you get to the border. Why would you help me? Because you helped those women when you didn't have to. Because everyone deserves a chance at redemption. She moved past him into the corridor, bodies everywhere. The compound was silent now except for distant sirens. Maxim called after her. What Victor told you. The name. You believe him. She didn't turn around. I'll find out. Outside, the desert night was cool and quiet. The stars were still beautiful, still indifferent. Alexis found a working vehicle, a jeep with keys still in the ignition. Her radio crackled. Raven, this is Ironside. Do you copy Commander Blackwell? Her mentor, the man who'd trained her, believed in her when no one else did. The man Victor had named with his dying breath. I copy, she said carefully. Heard gunfire on satellite feed. What's your status? Mission complete, hostages secure, primary target eliminated. Understood, I have extraction standing by. What's your location? She looked at the radio, thought about the mole, thought about trust. Negative on extraction, she said. I'm going dark for a while. Say again. I said I'm going dark. Tell Washington the hostages are safe. Tell them Victor Dalka is dead. Tell them... She paused. Tell them Lieutenant Commander Kincaid sends her regards. She turned off the radio, started driving. The border was 20 miles north. The hostages would need help, and she needed to make sure they made it home. After that, she had questions. Questions about her father, about the CIA, about who she could trust, but first she had to finish the mission. Behind her, the compound burned. Smoke rose into the star-filled sky, and somewhere above it all she imagined her father smiling. Mission almost complete, Dad, she whispered. Just one more thing to do. She drove into the darkness toward the border, toward home, toward whatever truth waited on the other side. The raven had risen, and she was far from finished. The desert stretched ahead like an ocean of sand and stone, endless under the moonlight. Alexis drove with the headlights off, navigating by starlight and memory, her hands steady on the wheel despite the pain radiating through her body. The bullet wound in her leg had slowed to a seep, clotted partially by dust and adrenaline, though blood still stained her pants. Her ribs felt like broken glass grinding together with every breath. The shoulder that had taken the chair impact was swelling, turning purple beneath the torn fabric of her shirt. She'd felt worse during Hell Week. That was a lie, but she told it to herself anyway. The radio crackled with distant chatter. Mexican federal police responding to reports of gunfire. American voices too, probably DEA or Border Patrol picking up the transmission. Everyone would be converging on the compound soon. She needed to reach the hostages first. According to Maxim's directions, they were heading northeast toward a small border crossing near Nogales, 20 miles through rough terrain. Meredith was leading them, but they were on foot, exhausted, traumatized. Easy prey for anyone who found them. Alexis pushed the jeep harder. The engine whined in protest. Her mind kept circling back to Victor's final words, the name he'd whispered. Commander James Blackwell. It couldn't be true. Blackwell had been her mentor for 6 years. He'd fought to get her into SEAL training when the brass said women couldn't handle it. He'd stood beside her when she graduated BUDS. He'd recommended her for Team 5 command. He'd been at her father's funeral. But Victor had no reason to lie. Dead men rarely do. She thought about the mission briefing, how specific the intelligence had been, how they'd known exactly where Meredith Hawthorne was being held, how convenient it had been that Alexis was the one chosen to go in alone, a setup from the beginning. But why? What did Blackwell have to gain, the same thing people always killed for? Money, power, secrets that needed to stay buried. Her father had discovered something 28 years ago, something big enough that the CIA had hired Victor to eliminate him. If Blackwell was involved, then if he'd helped cover it up, then Alexis digging into classified files would have set off alarms. So they'd sent her into a trap, one woman against a fortified compound. The odds of her surviving were minimal, and if she died, problem solved. Another operator lost in the line of duty, tragic but not suspicious, except she hadn't died. And now they had a bigger problem. Movement ahead. Alexis killed the engine, grabbed the HK-416, slipped out of the Jeep, a group of figures stumbling through the darkness, 12 of them. Women. She approached slowly, weapon lowered but ready. "Meredith," she called softly. The group froze, then Meredith's voice, shaky but determined. "Alexis." "It's me. You did good, all of you." The women collapsed around her, some crying, some too exhausted for tears. Meredith looked like she'd aged a decade in 3 days. Her feet were bleeding through her shoes. Her face was gaunt, dehydrated, but her eyes were fierce. "We heard explosions," Meredith said. "Gunfire. We thought, Victor's dead, so are most of his men. The rest won't be a problem." "What about the man who helped us, Maxim? He's heading south. He'll be fine." Dr. Catherine Reeves pushed forward. She was older than the others, mid-30s, with the bearing of someone who'd seen trauma before. "3 of us need medical attention. Dehydration, infections. One has a broken wrist. There's a Jeep. We can fit 6 at a time. The border is 8 miles. I'll make 2 trips. "What about you?" Catherine asked. She was looking at the blood soaking through Alexis's pant leg. "You're injured." "I'm functional." "That's not the same thing." "It is tonight." They loaded the most injured into the Jeep. Alexis drove them north, following a narrow road that barely qualified as a trail. The others walked, Catherine leading them, following the Jeep's taillights. The border crossing was small, unmanned at this hour. Just a chain-link fence with a gate and a single guard station on the American side. Alexis pulled up to the gate. A border patrol agent emerged from the station, hand on his weapon. "Stop right there," he said. Then he saw the women. His expression changed. "Jesus Christ, what happened?" "Cartel kidnapping. These women need immediate medical attention and protection. There are 6 more coming on foot 2 miles back." "Who are you?" Alexis pulled out her military ID. The agent's eyes widened. "Ma'am, we need to—" "No questions, not yet. Just get these women to safety. FBI will want to debrief them, so will Homeland Security, but first they need doctors." The agent nodded, already reaching for his radio. "We've got a medical team 20 minutes out. I'll send a unit back for the others. One of them is Congresswoman Hawthorne's daughter, Meredith. She's strong. She kept them together. Make sure people know that." Meredith grabbed Alexis's arm as she turned to leave. "Where are you going?" "To finish this. You can't just leave. You saved us. You should—" "I should get to a hospital. I should file a report. I should do a lot of things." Alexis gently removed Meredith's hand. "But first I have to know the truth." "About what?" "About why this happened, about who wanted me dead." She drove back south, picked up the remaining 6 women, brought them to the border. By the time she made the second trip, ambulances had arrived. FBI vehicles, media vans already setting up in the distance. It would be a circus soon, politicians taking credit, agencies fighting over jurisdiction. The women would tell their stories 100 times to 100 different officials. But they'd be alive to tell them. That was what mattered. Alexis slipped away before anyone could stop her for questioning. The Jeep's fuel gauge was reading empty. She abandoned it 3 miles from the border and started walking. Dawn was breaking over the desert, painting the sky in shades of amber and blood. Her leg was bleeding again. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving only pain and exhaustion. She needed water, food, rest. Instead, she kept walking. A sound behind her. Helicopter. She turned, raised her hand to shield her eyes from the rising sun. The helicopter was military, MH-60S. Navy colors. It touched down 50 yards away, kicking up a storm of sand and dust. Commander James Blackwell emerged from the side door. He was 59 but looked older, weathered by decades of combat and command. His hair was steel gray, cut high and tight. He wore desert fatigues with no rank insignia. His face was unreadable. "Raven," he called over the rotor wash. "We need to talk." Alexis's hand moved to her sidearm. "Don't," Blackwell said. He raised his hands, showing them empty. "I'm not here to fight you." "Then why are you here?" "Because you're about to make a very big mistake, which is believing a dead man's lies." So he knew. Of course he knew. Victor had probably transmitted everything before he died. Or maybe the compound had been under satellite surveillance. Or maybe Blackwell had been monitoring her communications all along. "Come with me," Blackwell said. "Let me explain. Then if you still want to shoot me, I won't stop you." Alexis calculated odds. If he wanted her dead, he could have sent the helicopter gunship instead of transport. Could have had a sniper waiting. Could have done 100 things. The fact that he was here alone, unarmed, meant something. She nodded. They climbed into the helicopter. The pilot took off immediately, heading northeast. Neither Alexis nor Blackwell spoke over the noise of the rotors. 30 minutes later, they landed at a small airfield in southern Arizona. Private. No markings. The kind of place that didn't officially exist. Blackwell led her to a hangar. Inside was a table, 2 chairs, and a laptop. "Sit," he said. She sat, kept her hand near her weapon. Blackwell opened the laptop, turned it so she could see the screen. "This is your father's file, the real one, not the sanitized version they gave you." Images appeared, documents, mission reports. Her father's face, younger, harder, staring back at her from classified briefings. "Operation Nightfall," Blackwell said. 1997 through 1998. Your father was part of a joint CIA SEAL task force tracking Al-Qaeda cells in East Africa. But he discovered something else. A weapons pipeline running from Eastern Europe through Kenya into multiple conflict zones. American weapons, NATO weapons, being sold to both sides of every regional war. Victor told me this already. Did he tell you who was running the pipeline? Alexis waited. It wasn't the CIA, Blackwell said. It was a private military contractor called Aegis Solutions, and they had friends in very high places, defense contractors, senators, 3-star generals, people who made billions off perpetual conflict. He pulled up more documents, financial records, shell companies, names she recognized. Your father was going to testify. He had evidence, witnesses, everything needed to bring down an empire. Blackwell's voice was quiet. So they killed him. They hired Victor Dalka because he was expendable, deniable. They staged it as collateral damage from terrorism. And where were you during all this? Blackwell met her eyes. I was there, in Kenya. I was your father's second in command. The words hung in the air like smoke. I tried to stop him, Blackwell continued. Told him to let it go. Told him the fight was too big, the enemy too powerful. But William Kincaid didn't know how to quit. He said some things were worth dying for. So you let him die? No. Blackwell's voice was hard. I tried to save him. When I heard about the hit, I drove to that safe house as fast as I could. But I was 20 minutes too late. The building was already burning. I pulled 3 bodies out of that fire. Your father was one of them. He pulled up another image. A photograph burned at the edges. It showed Blackwell 20 years younger, covered in soot and blood, cradling William Kincaid's dog tags. I've carried those tags every day for 28 years, Blackwell said. Reminder of what happens when you fight too hard for the truth. Alexis studied his face, looking for the lie, for the tell. If this is true, she said slowly, then why set me up? Why send me into Victor's compound? I didn't. Bullsh. The mission briefing came from above my pay grade. NSA intercept confirmed Meredith Hawthorne's location. State Department wanted immediate extraction. I recommended a full team. They overruled me. Said one operator had better odds of getting in clean. And you just accepted that? No, I argued, loudly, but I'm a commander, not an admiral. I don't make policy. He leaned forward. When you volunteered, I tried to talk you out of it. Remember? She did. He'd said it was too dangerous, said the survival rate was low. I knew something was wrong, Blackwell continued. The intelligence was too clean, the timing too convenient, but I couldn't prove anything. So I did the next best thing. Which was, I made sure SEAL Team 5 was ready to roll the moment you sent up a flare. When your GPS tracker went dead, I knew you were compromised. I had birds in the air within 20 minutes. We were tracking you on satellite, waiting for an opening. You showed up at the end. Because you didn't give me an opening until the end, you went dark, cut communications, moved too fast for us to intervene without risking the hostages. He smiled slightly. You're your father's daughter, stubborn, brilliant, too damn brave for your own good. Alexis wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. Victor gave me your name with his last breath. Because that's what he was told to say. Think about it, Raven. If I wanted you dead, why would I send you in alone where you might succeed? Why not just have you killed quietly, arrange an accident during training? Because an accident would be investigated, but dying on a dangerous mission, that's just bad luck. Except you didn't die, and now someone very powerful is very nervous. Blackwell pulled up one more file. This came through encrypted channels 3 hours ago. Eyes only. From someone inside Aegis Solutions. The document was brief. A kill order. Target Lieutenant Commander Alexis Kincaid, authorization level executive. They're not done with you, Blackwell said. They're sending a SAD team, CIA Special Activities Division. Ghosts. The kind of operators who make SEALs look like Boy Scouts. They'll be here by tonight. Let them come. Jesus, you really are William's daughter. Blackwell stood. Listen to me. Your father fought this fight and it killed him. I've spent 28 years playing the game, staying alive, waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. But not if you're dead. What are you proposing? You have evidence. Victor's confession. The body camera footage. Everything needed to blow this open, but you can't just upload it to WikiLeaks and hope it sticks. These people own media companies. They'll discredit you. Bury the story, make you look like a conspiracy theorist or a traitor. So what do? You go through proper channels, congressional oversight, the Inspector General. You testify in closed session, present your evidence to people who can actually do something about it. And trust the system that killed my father? No. Trust the fact that things have changed in 28 years. The people who ordered your father's death, most of them are dead or retired. New blood. Younger generation. Some of them actually give a damn about the truth. Alexis stood slowly. Her leg was throbbing. Her vision was starting to blur at the edges. I need time to think. You don't have time. The SAD team will be here by... The hangar door exploded inward. Flashbangs, smoke grenades, professional assault, textbook entry. 6 operators in black gear poured through weapons up, moving with the fluid precision of elite soldiers. CIA Special Activities Division. They'd found her faster than expected. Blackwell grabbed Alexis, pulled her behind a storage crate as bullets sparked off metal. Out the back, go! Not without you! I'm 70 seconds behind, move! She ran, through the back of the hangar out into desert sunlight. Behind her, the firefight was brutal and brief. Blackwell might be in his late 50s, but he'd been a SEAL for 30 years. He wouldn't go down easy. But 6 against 1. Not even her father could have survived those odds. A vehicle waited behind the hangar. Black SUV engine running. A woman stood beside it, mid-30s, blonde hair pulled back, wearing civilian clothes and a tactical vest. Commander Kincaid, get in! Who the hell are you? FBI Counterterrorism, Agent Rachel Morrison. I've been investigating Aegis Solutions for 2 years. Commander Blackwell contacted me 48 hours ago. Said you might need backup. Gunfire echoed from inside the hangar. Alexis made a choice. She dove into the SUV. Agent Morrison hit the gas before the door was fully closed. They screamed away from the airfield as more CIA operators emerged from the hangar. Bullets sparked off the SUV's armored hull. "Blackwell?" Alexis asked. Morrison's face was grim. He knew it was a one-way trip, said to tell you he's sorry, said your father would be proud. "We have to go back. We can't. He made his choice so you could live. Don't waste it." Alexis's throat tightened. "Is he alive?" "Barely. My team extracted him 30 seconds after you left. He's in critical condition, but he's a fighter." Morrison's eyes met hers. "He bought you time. Make it count." They drove hard for 20 minutes, switching vehicles twice, using counter-surveillance techniques to shake any pursuit. Finally, Morrison pulled into an abandoned warehouse in Tucson. Inside, 3 more agents waited. Computers, communications equipment, a mobile command post. "This is it," Alexis said. 4 FBI agents against the entire CIA. "Not the entire CIA, just the dirty parts, and we're not alone." Morrison pulled up a video feed. 40 minutes ago, the Washington Post received an anonymous package. "Victor Dalka's confession. Your body camera footage. Financial records linking Aegis Solutions to weapons trafficking across 3 decades. It's already gone viral." On the screen, news anchors were breaking the story, headlines scrolling, shocked faces, political chaos. "Congress has called emergency hearings," another agent said. "DOJ is opening an investigation. The director of the CIA just resigned." Morrison pulled up another file. "And this came through diplomatic channels. Maxim Volkov made it to Kiev. He's with his daughter now. Ukrainian authorities granted him immunity in exchange for testimony about the cartel operations." Alexis felt something loosen in her chest. "Good. He earned it." Alexis sat down heavily. Her leg was bleeding again. She was so tired she could barely see straight. "You did it," Morrison said quietly. "You exposed them, just like your father tried to do. My father died, but his daughter didn't. That's what matters." 3 days later, Alexis sat in a closed congressional hearing room. Her leg was bandaged, her ribs were taped. She wore her dress white's medals on her chest, the trident over her heart. Across from her sat 15 senators and representatives. Behind them, reporters from every major outlet, cameras recording everything. She testified for 6 hours, told them everything, showed them the evidence, answered every question with the precision and honesty her father had taught her. When it was over, the committee chair, a stern woman in her 60s, leaned forward. "Commander Kincaid, what you've done took extraordinary courage. You've exposed a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of our government and military. You've saved 12 innocent lives, and you've honored your father's memory. With respect, ma'am, I'm not done." The room went quiet. There are still people out there. People who gave the orders, people who profit from war while soldiers die, people who killed my father and tried to kill me. Until they face justice, this isn't finished. The committee chair nodded slowly. 11 executives from Aegis Solutions are already in custody, 7 former CIA officials, 2 senators, and we're just getting started. She leaned forward. Then we have more work to do. 4 weeks later, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Alexis sat in a hospital bed, leg in a brace, ribs still healing. The doctors wanted her to stay another week. She was planning to discharge herself tomorrow. Commander Blackwell had survived. Barely. 3 gunshot wounds, a collapsed lung, and a fractured skull. But SEALs were hard to kill. He sat in a wheelchair beside her bed, looking like hell, but smiling. "They're offering you a promotion," he said, "and a Medal of Honor. I don't want either. I know, but you'll take them anyway because that's how you honor the people who died. You keep serving. What about you? Medical retirement. Probably for the best. I'm too old for this He caught himself. This stuff. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. "Your father," Blackwell said finally. "The last thing he said to me before that final mission. He said, if anything happens, make sure Alexis knows I loved her, and that everything I did was to make the world safer for her." Alexis felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. He succeeded, she said quietly. Took 28 years, but he succeeded. 2 months later, Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60. Alexis stood in front of her father's grave. The grass was perfectly manicured, the headstone gleaming white marble. Master Chief William J. Kincaid, SEAL Team 2, 1958 to 1998, Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, Bronze Star. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her own trident, the symbol of the SEAL Brotherhood, the most difficult badge to earn in the American military. She pressed it into the soft earth beside her father's headstone next to his own trident that had been placed there decades ago. "Mission complete, Dad," she whispered. "The truth is out. The bad guys are going to prison. 12 women are home with their families, and I'm still standing." She touched the cold marble, felt the sting of tears she'd been holding back for 28 years. "You were right about everything. About being strong, about being smart, about finishing what you start. I just wish you were here to see it." The wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of cut grass and distant rain. Somewhere behind her, she heard footsteps. Agent Morrison approached slowly, respectfully. "Sorry to interrupt," Morrison said, "but there's a situation. We've identified 3 more Aegis Solutions facilities, active operations, weapons trafficking. We could use someone who knows how to handle this kind of thing." Alexis looked at her father's grave one more time. Then she turned to face Morrison. "What kind of timeline?" "Wheels up in 2 hours. I'll be there in 1. As she walked away from the grave, her phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "Commander Kincaid, FBI Director, we need to talk about your future, about building a task force dedicated to rooting out corruption at the highest levels. About finishing what your father started. Interested?" Alexis looked back at the grave, at the 2 tridents gleaming in the afternoon sun. She typed a response. "Send details." The Raven had come home, but she wasn't done flying, not by a long shot. There were still dragons to slay, still truths to uncover, still a world to make safer, just like her father had taught her. She climbed into Morrison's vehicle. As they drove away from Arlington, away from the past, toward whatever came next, Alexis allowed herself a small smile. "Where to first?" Morrison asked. "Wherever the mission takes us." Spoken like a true SEAL. The vehicle merged into traffic, disappearing into the flow of the living city. Above, the sun broke through the clouds, painting everything in gold, and in Arlington, in Section 60, 2 tridents caught the light. Father and daughter, legacy and future, 2 souls who understood that some things were worth dying for, but more importantly, worth living for. The mission was complete, but the story was far from over.